I knew something was wrong the second I saw that invitation in my mailbox 3 weeks ago. Thick card stock, gold lettering, Chelsea's Sweet 16 celebration at the Marriott downtown. Black tie requested the whole deal. My daughter's name right there at the top and at the bottom in smaller print. Celebrating with family and friends. Family. That word made me laugh because I hadn't heard from Chelsea in 4 years. Not since her mom Jason remarried and they moved across the state. The invitation had my current address, though, which meant someone had gone through the effort to find me. I sat in my apartment that night, turning that card over in my hands. And yeah, part of me wanted to believe maybe Chelsea had asked for me to be there. Maybe she remembered I existed. But I've known my ex-wife Zoe for 15 years, married to her for 8 of them, and I know how she operates. I called my buddy Derek that night and told him about it. He said I was crazy for even considering going, that it was obviously a setup. But here's the thing. Nobody else understood. I'd been waiting for something like this. Not hoping for it exactly, but I knew eventually Zoe would get cocky enough to pull something to push just a little too far because she's never been able to resist twisting the knife. 4 years of silence, 4 years of returned birthday cards and blocked numbers and child support checks cashed without acknowledgement. And suddenly, an invitation shows up. I'm not an idiot. So, I RSVP'd yes through the number on the card. Got a response 2 days later confirming my attendance, asking about meal preferences, the works. That's when I knew for sure this was a game to them because if Chelsea actually wanted me there, Zoe would have moved heaven and earth to keep me away. The fact that they were rolling out the red carpet told me everything I needed to know. I spent the next 3 weeks getting ready. Took my suit to get cleaned and pressed. The good one I bought 2 years ago when I got promoted to assistant manager. Got a haircut. Detailed my 2019 Ford Focus because, yeah, it's not new, but I keep it clean. I looked at myself in the mirror the morning of the party and thought about how different I looked from the last time Zoe saw me back when I was working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on and could barely afford to put gas in my beat-up truck. The divorce destroyed me financially. Zoe's parents paid for her lawyer while I represented myself because I couldn't afford the retainer fee. She got primary custody. I got every other weekend that somehow turned into once a month and then never because Chelsea was always busy with soccer or dance or birthday parties. The child support payments were based on income one wasn't making anymore after I lost my job during the custody battle. So, I was perpetually behind and perpetually threatened with jail time. But I worked my way back. Got my certification in automotive technology. Worked up from oil changes to diagnostics. Then into management. Started taking community college classes at night. Paid off my debts one by one. And the whole time I was doing it, I was thinking about Chelsea, about being able to prove to her that I wasn't the deadbeat her mother was probably telling her I was. I found out about Zoe's remarriage through Facebook. She married Tucker, some corporate finance guy whose LinkedIn said he went to Yale and whose profile pictures were all yacht clubs and golf courses. The wedding photos showed Chelsea as a flower girl, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my rent. 6 months after that, they moved to the other side of the state to one of those neighborhoods where the houses all have names instead of just addresses. The drive to the Marriott took 4 hours. I left early because I wanted time to walk around downtown, get my head straight, remind myself why I was doing this. Every mile I drove, I kept thinking about the envelope in my jacket pocket. The one I'd prepared 2 years ago and kept updating every few months. I'd always known I'd need it eventually. Zoe has a pattern. See, she pushes and pushes until she goes too far. And then she panics when she realizes there are consequences. The Marriott was exactly what I expected. All marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Valet parking that I skipped because I wasn't giving them my keys. I parked in the garage across the street and walked over in my suit carrying nothing but my wallet and that envelope. It was Saturday evening. The lobby was full of people in formal wear heading to various events. And I followed the signs to the grand ballroom on the 2nd floor. That's where I met security. 2 guys in suits standing at the entrance, one of them holding a clipboard. I gave them my name and the guy checked his list. Then checked it again, then looked at his partner. "Can you wait here for just a moment, sir?" I waited, stood there in the hallway while other guests walked past me into the ballroom and through the glass doors, I could see it was massive, decorated in silver and white with balloon arches and a DJ setup and probably 200 people already inside. I could hear music, could see teenagers dancing, could see what looked like a candy buffet and a photo booth and everything else you'd expect at a party that probably cost more than I make in 6 months. Then Zoe came out and I knew. I knew from the way she pushed through the doors, from the smile on her face, from the way Tucker was right behind her with his phone already out. She was wearing a silver dress that matched the decorations and heels that made her tower over me even though we used to be the same height. Her hair was different, highlighted and styled, and she had this look on her face like she'd just won the lottery. "Oh my God, you actually came?" She was loud enough that people in the hallway turned to look. "Did you really think we'd let you embarrass our daughter at her party?" Tucker stepped up beside her, and he was everything his photos suggested. Tall and tan and wearing a watch that cost more than my car. He looked me up and down like I was something stuck to his shoe. "Bro, we sent that invitation as a joke." He was grinning like this was the funniest thing that had ever happened. "Wanted to see if you're still pathetic enough to show up. And look at you. You actually drove 4 hours in that piece of garbage car for a party you were never invited to." The security guards were trying to be subtle, but they'd moved closer, ready to escort me out if needed. People were stopping in the hallway now, watching the scene. Through the glass, I could see some of the guests inside had noticed something was happening and were starting to gather near the doors. Then Chelsea appeared, pushing between her mother and Tucker, and I barely recognized her. She was 16 now, wearing this elaborate white dress with her hair done up, looking like a stranger, and she had her phone out recording, pointed straight at me. "Dad, seriously?" Her voice had that teenage contempt perfected. "You drove 4 hours in that piece of crap car for a party you were never invited to. Do you know how embarrassing this is?" Zoe put her arm around Chelsea's shoulders. "Everyone inside thinks you're dead," she said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. "I told them you died in a motorcycle accident in 2019. We had a whole funeral and everything. Very sad." Chelsea was so brave about it. Tucker was still filming. "Look at your shoes, man. Are those from Goodwill? My gardener dress is better. What do you even do for work?" Still changing oil at Jiffy Lube. Chelsea was scrolling through her phone now, probably already uploading the video. "Mom's right. You're an embarrassment. My friends' dads are doctors and CEOs, and you work at a garage. I told everyone my real dad was dead because it's less humiliating than admitting you exist." One of the security guards touched my elbow. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." I hadn't said a word this entire time. Just stood there and let them have their moment. Let them get it all out. Let them film their little victory. Zoe was practically vibrating with glee. Tucker was already typing something on his phone, probably posting about this to his golf buddies. Chelsea had gone back into the ballroom, probably to show her friends the video. Then Zoe pulled out her wallet and took out a $20 bill. She literally threw it at my feet for gas. She said, "Now get out before we call the cops and tell them you're stalking us." The hotel manager had appeared now, a woman in a blazer who was clearly trying to assess the situation while keeping things calm for the other guests. "Sir, if you could please come with me." I looked at Zoe. Really looked at her and I saw it. That same expression she used to get back when we were married, when she'd won an argument or gotten her way about something. That smug certainty that she was untouchable, that she'd gotten away with something. I smiled, reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the envelope, brown and legalized and sealed. I held it out toward her. "Give this to her when she opens her gifts." Zoe's smile faltered just a little. "What is that? A gift?" I said, "For Chelsea." Tucker stepped forward like he was going to take it from me. But I pulled it back. "Not for you," I said. "For my daughter. When she opens presents." I walked past them to the concierge desk in the lobby. The hotel manager following me. I asked the concierge for help and explained that I had a gift for the Sweet 16 party in the grand ballroom, that I couldn't stay, but wanted to make sure it reached my daughter Chelsea. The concierge took the envelope, made a note of it, confirmed the party, and promised it would be delivered with the other gifts. The hotel manager escorted me to the parking garage. She apologized for the situation, said something about how they wanted all their guests to feel comfortable, the usual script. I thanked her for being professional about it and walked to my car. It was 7:30 when I started driving home. I stopped at a diner halfway back, had a burger and coffee, took my time, got back to my apartment around midnight and took a shower, put my suit back in the garment bag, hung it in the closet, made a sandwich, and turned on the TV. That's when my phone started going off. First, one call from Zoe's number, which I let go to voicemail. Then another, then 3 more in a row. Then texts started coming through, dozens of them, the notification sound going off over and over. I turned the sound off and finished my sandwich. The screen kept lighting up with her name. Call after call after call. I counted 67 missed calls before I stopped counting. The voicemails were piling up too. I listened to the first one. She was sobbing, actually sobbing. Her voice breaking up, begging me to call her back. Oh God, what did you do? Please call me back. We need to talk about this. You can't just. I deleted it and turned off my phone. Sat there in my apartment in the quiet. And for the first time in 4 years, I felt something close to peace. Whatever happened next, whatever was in those other voicemails, whatever chaos was unfolding at that party, it was exactly what I'd been working toward. They wanted to play games. They wanted to humiliate me in front of 200 people. They wanted to tell my daughter I was dead. They should have left me alone. Update 1. Okay, so I need to update this because the situation has gone completely off the rails. And some of you in the comments were asking what was in the envelope. I'm getting to that, trust me. But first, I need to explain what happened after I posted. Sunday morning, I woke up and made the mistake of turning my phone back on. The thing basically had a seizure from all the notifications. By the time it finished loading, I had 147 missed calls, 89 text messages, and 23 voicemails. All from Zoe, except for a handful from numbers I didn't recognize, which I'm assuming were Tucker and maybe Chelsea using other phones. I made coffee first. Let me be clear about that because some of you said I should have answered right away. No, I spent 4 years being erased from my daughter's life. 4 years of returned birthday cards and blocked numbers and being told through lawyers that Chelsea didn't want contact with me. They orchestrated a public humiliation at her party and filmed it for entertainment. They could wait while I had my coffee. The voicemails were a trip. The first dozen were Zoe crying, then angry, then crying again. She kept saying I needed to call her immediately, that I'd ruined everything, that I had no idea what I'd done. The later ones were more specific. She was screaming about how I destroyed Chelsea's party, how all the guests were talking about it, how Chelsea locked herself in the bathroom for an hour. Tucker left a few voicemails, 2, way calmer than Zoe, saying we needed to have a man-to-man conversation about the situation and figure out how to handle this like adults. I texted Zoe back around noon, 1 message. We can talk, but I'm not doing this over the phone. Pick a place. She called immediately. I let it ring. She called 6 more times. I texted again in person or not at all. She finally texted back an address, some chain restaurant near my place, asking if I could meet at 2. I said 3. She said fine, but I needed to promise not to cause a scene. I didn't respond to that. I got there early and grabbed a booth in the back. The place was doing the Sunday lunch crowd. Families with kids, couples having late breakfast, the usual. Zoe showed up at 3 exactly. And man, she looked rough. No makeup, hair in a ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt instead of her usual polished look. She slid into the booth across from me and just stared for a minute. You look different, she said. Like the last 4 years had just registered for her. You cut your hair, lost weight. I ordered a water from the waitress. Zoe asked for coffee. Neither of us looked at the menus. What was in that envelope, she said. It wasn't a question. Documents, I said. Information, things Chelsea should know. Her hands were shaking around her coffee cup. You had no right to do that. She's 16. She's a child. Whatever you think you're accomplishing, I cut her off. You told her I was dead. You told 200 people at her party that I died in a motorcycle accident. You had a funeral. Zoe's jaw tightened. That was to protect her. You don't understand what it's been like. She had so many questions about why you never came around. Why you never called. And it was easier for who? I said for her, for everyone. You weren't in her life anyway. What difference did it make if she thought her father abandoned her or if she thought he was dead? I kept my voice level because those are pretty different things. Zoe? The waitress came back and we both waved her away. The restaurant was loud enough that nobody was paying attention to us, which was good because Zoe was starting to raise her voice. Do you have any idea what you've done? Chelsea opened that envelope in front of everyone, her friends, Tucker's parents, his entire family, my parents, everyone we know. She read it out loud because she thought it was going to be some cash or a savings bond or something normal. And instead, it was she stopped, put her face in her hands. What was it? I said, even though I knew exactly what it was. Bank statements, she said. 4 years of child support payments, every single one, with dates and amounts and case numbers, and a letter from you explaining that you've been paying this whole time, that you never missed a payment, that you tried to see her and I blocked you, that you sent cards and gifts that got returned, that you showed up for her soccer games in middle school and I called security on you. I waited. Zoe looked up at me and her eyes were red. And copies of the custody agreement showing you were supposed to have visitation every other weekend. And copies of the emails I sent your lawyer saying Chelsea didn't want to see you, that she asked me to stop facilitating visits, and then a letter from Chelsea's middle school counselor from 3 years ago saying Chelsea was in therapy because she thought her father didn't love her and didn't want to be part of her life. There was more in that envelope, but I wanted to see what Zoe would admit to first. She was spiraling now, words coming faster. Tucker's mother asked me why I told everyone you were dead if you were paying child support. I told her it was complicated. She asked how it could be complicated if there was a court order saying you got visitation. Tucker's sister is a lawyer and she looked at the custody agreement right there at the party and said it looked like I was in contempt of court for 4 years. My own mother asked me why I would lie about something like this. Chelsea just kept asking why over and over. Why did I tell her you didn't want her when you were literally trying to see her? How did Chelsea react? I asked. Zoe's face crumpled. She won't talk to me. She's been locked in her room since we got home last night. She won't eat, won't come out, won't respond. Tucker keeps trying to talk to her through the door, but she just screams at him to go away. She posted something on Instagram at like 3 o'clock in the morning about how her whole life is a lie and all her friends are commenting asking what happened. And Tucker? I asked. Tucker is angry, Zoe said. His parents pulled him aside at the party and had a long conversation about character and honesty and whether I'd lied about other things. His mother asked if I'd lied about my first marriage, about why we divorced, about anything else. He's been cold to me since last night, distant. He keeps saying he needs time to process. The waitress came by again. I ordered a burger. Zoe said she wasn't hungry. After the waitress left, Zoe leaned forward. You need to fix this, she said. You need to tell Chelsea that envelope was a mistake. That you were angry and exaggerated things that I was just trying to protect her. No, I said you don't understand, Zoe said. Her voice was getting desperate. Tucker's family is old money. His parents have a foundation. They sit on charity boards. They're very concerned about reputation and public image. If they think I'm someone who lies about serious things, who manipulates custody agreements, who turns a child against her father. That's exactly what you did, I said. Zoe slammed her hand on the table. You need to help me fix this. For Chelsea's sake, if nothing else, she's devastated. She thinks everything about her life is fake. Her friends are asking questions. Her Instagram is blowing up. And Tucker's family is treating me like I'm some kind of criminal. Are they wrong? I asked. She stared at me. You've changed. You used to be so passive, so easy to push around. What happened to you? I got tired of being erased, I said. And I had 4 years to think about what I'd say if I ever got the chance. My burger arrived. I started eating. Zoe watched me like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. There was more in that envelope, she said quietly. Wasn't there? You didn't just put in bank statements and letters. I chewed my burger, took a drink of water. There was something else at the bottom, Zoe said. In a separate sealed envelope marked for Chelsea to read privately. She wouldn't tell anyone what it said, but after she read it, she started crying and wouldn't stop. What did you tell her? That's between me and my daughter, I said. Zoe's phone buzzed. She looked at it and her face went pale. Tucker's calling. I need to answer it, I said. She stepped outside. I could see her through the window, pacing back and forth, gesturing while she talked. She looked upset. After about 5 minutes, she came back in and sat down. Tucker wants to meet with you, she said. Tomorrow. He says he needs to understand what's going on from your perspective. I said, but. His office downtown, 11 a.m. I'll text you the address. Will you be there? I asked. He said, just you and him. Zoe looked at me. Please don't make this worse than it already is. Tucker is talking about marriage counseling and trust exercises, and his mother keeps calling asking about our relationship foundation. Chelsea won't speak to me. My parents are barely speaking to me. Please. I stood up and dropped cash on the table for my burger. I looked at Zoe and tried to remember why I married her 12 years ago, but that person was gone. You made Chelsea think I was dead. I said, you humiliated me at her party. You spent 4 years erasing me from her life. And you want me not to make it worse? I left her sitting there, walked out to my car and drove home. My phone started buzzing again before I even got out of the parking lot, but I ignored it. I had work Monday morning and I needed to be sharp for whatever Tucker wanted to talk about. That separate sealed envelope for Chelsea, that's the part that has Zoe really scared because I didn't just put legal documents in the main envelope. I put a letter to my daughter explaining everything written like I was talking directly to her. I told her about how I used to read her bedtime stories about princesses. How she used to fall asleep holding on to my finger. How her first word was Dada. I told her about showing up to every single soccer game I could find and watching from the parking lot because Zoe had me banned from getting closer. I told her about the birthday cards I sent that came back marked return to sender. I told her I never stopped loving her and never stopped trying. And then I told her something Zoe doesn't know I know. I told Chelsea that when she was 13, she called my old phone number from her friend's cell trying to reach me. And when she found out it was disconnected, she cried to her friend about how she just wanted to talk to her dad one time. I know because that friend's mother is the sister of a guy I work with, and she mentioned it to him 2 years ago, and he told me Chelsea has been trying to find me and Zoe made sure she couldn't. So yeah, Tucker wants to meet. I'm curious what he has to say, and Chelsea still isn't talking to Zoe. This is far from over. Update 2. This is getting wild and I need to get this all down before I forget the details. Shout out to the commenter who said Tucker was probably more worried about his reputation than anything else. You absolutely nailed it. Monday morning, I went to work like normal. I managed the service department at an automotive shop, which means I spend half my day dealing with customers and the other half making sure the techs don't cut corners. Derek asked me how the weekend went and I gave him the basics. He just shook his head and said I was either brilliant or insane, possibly both. Tucker's office was in one of those downtown buildings that's all glass and steel, the kind where you have to check in with security and get a visitor badge. The lobby had abstract art on the walls and furniture that looked expensive but uncomfortable. I showed up at 10:50, got my badge, took the elevator to the 14th floor. His assistant met me in the lobby area, professional and polite, offered me water or coffee, which I declined. She walked me back to Tucker's office, knocked once, and left me at the door. Tucker's office was exactly what I expected. Big windows overlooking the city, mahogany desk, diplomas, and awards on the walls. Family photos arranged strategically. There was one of him and Zoe at their wedding, one of him with Chelsea at what looked like a father-daughter dance, one of Tucker with an older couple who were probably his parents. He stood up when I came in, shook my hand, gestured to the chairs in front of his desk. He was wearing a suit that probably cost what I make in a month. And he had this way of moving that suggested he was used to being in charge of every room he entered. Thanks for coming, he said. I know this situation is complicated, but I think we can work something out that's beneficial for everyone involved. I sat down, waited. Tucker settled back in his chair and put his hands together. I've spent the last day and a half doing damage control. My parents are concerned. Zoe's parents are asking questions. Chelsea is a wreck. And frankly, I need to understand what your endgame is here. My endgame? I said, you delivered those documents at a party with 200 guests. Tucker said, you could have sent them in the mail. You could have requested a meeting with Chelsea and her mother present. You could have gone through your lawyer. Instead, you chose the most public, most humiliating option possible. So, I'm asking what you want. I wanted my daughter to know the truth, I said. Tucker nodded like he'd expected that answer. The truth? Okay, let's talk about truth. You were married to Zoe for 8 years. You went through a divorce. Custody was established. Child support was ordered. You paid it, which is commendable. But let's be honest, that's the bare minimum legal requirement. I didn't interrupt. I wanted to see where he was going with this. Zoe made some choices about how to handle your relationship with Chelsea, Tucker continued. Were those choices perfect? Probably not. But she was trying to protect Chelsea from confusion and instability. A father who was in and out, who couldn't maintain consistent contact, who was struggling financially. I wasn't in and out, I said. I was blocked. There's a difference. Tucker held up his hand. I'm not here to relitigate the past. I'm here to talk about the future. Chelsea is 16. In 2 years, she'll be 18 and can make her own choices about contact. Until then, we need to figure out how to minimize the damage from this situation. Minimize the damage, I repeated. Tucker leaned forward. My family has a certain standing in this community. My mother sits on 3 charitable boards. My father's name is on a wing of the Children's Hospital. When something like this happens, when there are questions about the character of someone I've brought into my family, it creates problems. So, this is about your reputation. I said, this is about stability. Tucker said, Chelsea needs stability. Zoe needs stability. And right now, everything is chaos because you decided to air your grievances at a child's birthday party. My grievances, I said, include being told I was dead, being erased from my daughter's life, being humiliated in front of 200 people as a joke. Those aren't small things, Tucker sat back. I agree, and I've spoken with Zoe about the choices she made. The story about you being dead was excessive, and I've told her that, but what's done is done. The question is, what happens next? What do you think should happen next? I asked. Tucker pulled out a folder from his desk drawer. I've spoken with my attorney. We think the best path forward is a modification of the custody agreement. You get scheduled visitation with Chelsea, supervised at first to rebuild trust, moving toward unsupervised as appropriate. In exchange, you sign an agreement not to discuss the circumstances of your estrangement from Chelsea with anyone outside the immediate family. No social media, no talking to mutual acquaintances, no public statements. You want me to sign an NDA? I said, I want to protect my family from further embarrassment, Tucker said, and give you a legitimate path back into Chelsea's life. Isn't that what you want? At what cost? I asked. Tucker named a figure. That would be the monthly amount we'd propose for you to consider a full settlement of any custody disputes. Significantly higher than your current child support obligation. You're offering me money to shut up, I said. I'm offering you access to your daughter and financial support to make that access meaningful. Tucker said, you could take her to dinner at nice restaurants instead of fast food. You could help with college expenses when the time comes. You could be a real presence in her life instead of someone who shows up every other weekend with nothing to offer. I stood up. Tucker looked surprised. I don't want your money, I said. I want my daughter to know who I am and what actually happened. That's not negotiable. Tucker's expression hardened. Then you're making a mistake. Right now, you have leverage because Chelsea is emotional and Zoe is scrambling. But in a week or 2, things will calm down. Chelsea will realize her life is better with us than with someone who works in a garage and lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. Zoe will find a way to reframe this narrative and my family will close ranks. You'll be on the outside again, exactly where you were before. Maybe I said. Or maybe Chelsea keeps asking questions you can't answer. Tucker stood up to. We're done here. My assistant will show you out. I left his office and took the elevator down. My phone buzzed in the parking garage. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Just 2 words. Dad, please. I stared at that message for a solid minute. Chelsea had somehow gotten my number. I saved it to my contacts and texted back. I'm here whenever you want to talk. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. Can you come get me? Where are you? Isinoma. Mom's at work. Tucker's at his office. I don't want to be here anymore. I sat in my car and thought about this. Legally, Chelsea was a minor. Zoe had primary custody. If I showed up and took Chelsea without Zoe's permission, that could be used against me. But my daughter was asking for help. I texted, I need to talk to your mom first. Make sure this is okay legally. She won't let me see you. She's scared I'll hate her. Does she have reason to be scared of that? The response took a while. I don't know who to trust anymore. Everything I thought I knew was wrong. She told me you abandoned me. She told me you didn't pay child support. She told me you were dead. How do I believe anything she says now? I called Derek, asked him if his sister-in-law, the one whose daughter was friends with Chelsea, could maybe pass along a message. He said he'd see what he could do. 20 minutes later, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. The voice on the other end was female, nervous. Is this Chelsea's dad? This is Avery's mom. Avery and Chelsea have been friends since middle school. I said, yes, that was me. She said Chelsea had been texting Avery all weekend. That she was a mess. That she'd seen the documents from the envelope and didn't know what to do. She said Avery told her that Chelsea wanted to see me, but was afraid of her mother's reaction. I asked if she thought Chelsea was safe at home. She hesitated, then said physically, yes, but emotionally she seemed fragile. She said Chelsea had been posting cryptic things on Instagram, deleting them, posting again. She said some of Chelsea's other friends were worried about her. I thanked her and hung up. Pulled up Instagram and searched for Chelsea's account. It was public. The most recent post was from an hour ago. A photo of the view from her bedroom window with the caption, "When your whole life is built on lies, what's even real anymore?" The comments were full of her friends asking if she was okay, asking what happened at her party, asking if they could help. One comment from a username I didn't recognize said, "Your mom is a liar, and everyone knows it now." My phone rang. Zoe, where is she? Zoe screamed before I could even say hello. Chelsea's gone. Her car is still here, but she's not in the house, and she's not answering her phone. And her friend Avery's mom just texted me saying, "You've been in contact with Chelsea." I haven't seen Chelsea, I said calmly. She texted me asking to talk. I told her we needed your permission first. Permission? Zoe was hysterical. You don't have permission to talk to my daughter. You lost that right when you and I what? I said when I paid child support for 4 years. When I tried to exercise my court-ordered visitation. When I existed. Zoe's voice changed. Got lower, more controlled. If you know where she is, you need to tell me right now. She's 16. She's upset and confused. And if something happens to her, she's at her friend Avery's house, I said, taking a guess based on the timing of Avery's mom's call. She probably walked there. It's 3 blocks from your place. Zoe hung up without another word. My phone buzzed again. Chelsea, mom's coming to get me. She's furious. Why did you tell her where I was? Because you're 16 and I'm not kidnapping you. I texted back, but I meant what I said. I'm here when you want to talk. Tucker offered you money to go away, didn't he? That's his solution to everything. I didn't answer that. Mom's here. I have to go. But I meant what I said too. I don't want to be here anymore. That was Monday afternoon. Monday evening, Zoe texted me saying we needed to have a family meeting, all 4 of us, to clear the air and establish boundaries. I said I'd think about it. Tuesday morning, Tucker's lawyer sent me an official letter outlining their custody modification proposal, the financial offer, and a deadline to respond. Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. The caller ID said it was Zoe's mother, my ex-mother-in-law Chloe. I hadn't spoken to her in 3 years. She said we needed to talk. She said she'd seen the documents Chelsea showed her. She said she had questions about why Zoe told the family I was dead when clearly I'd been paying child support the whole time. She said her husband, Carlos, wanted to know why they'd been excluded from their granddaughter's relationship with her father. I told her I'd be happy to meet with them. She gave me their address, said Thursday evening around 6 o'clock. Said not to tell Zoe they'd invited me. So now I've got Tucker trying to buy me off, Zoe trying to control the narrative, Chelsea trying to escape, and Zoe's own parents questioning her story. And I haven't even played my last card yet because there's one more thing in my files that nobody knows about. Something I found out 2 years ago that I've been saving for exactly this moment. And if Tucker thinks his family's reputation is important, wait until he finds out what kind of person he actually married. Thursday with Zoe's parents should be interesting. Final update. This is probably my last update because the situation has reached a point where I need to focus on rebuilding my relationship with Chelsea instead of documenting every detail for Reddit. But you all invested time in this story and deserve to know how it played out. So, here goes. Thursday evening, I drove to Chloe and Carlos's house. They still lived in the same place from when Zoe and I were married. A ranch-style house in a quiet neighborhood with a big backyard where Chelsea used to play when she was little. I remembered bringing her there for Sunday dinners back when I was still part of the family. Chloe answered the door and for a second we just looked at each other. She's in her 60s now, gray hair. She used to dye blonde and she looked tired. She invited me in and Carlos was already sitting in the living room, same recliner he'd had for 20 years. He stood up and shook my hand, which surprised me. "We heard you were dead," Carlos said. "Motorcycle accident." Zoe showed us pictures from a funeral service. We sent flowers. I sat down on the couch. She faked my funeral. Chloe brought coffee and sat down next to Carlos. Not exactly. She showed us photos from some memorial service. Said it was for you. Said Chelsea had been so brave about losing her father. We were confused because we'd seen your child support payments clearing. Carlos handles Zoe's banking sometimes and he saw the deposits. But Zoe said that was from your life insurance policy paying out monthly. So you knew I was alive. I said, "We suspected." Carlos said, "But Zoe insisted you'd asked before you died that the insurance be structured that way for Chelsea's stability. And we didn't have any reason to doubt her until Chelsea opened that envelope at her party." Chloe leaned forward. "Why didn't you contact us? In 4 years, you never once reached out to ask about Chelsea." "I did," I said. "I sent emails. I called your house phone. Every single one went unanswered. I assumed Zoe had told you not to speak to me." "We never got any emails or calls," Chloe said. But Carlos pulled out his phone and started checking something. After about a minute, he showed me his screen. Email settings. There was a filter rule set up to automatically delete any messages from my email address and send calls from my number straight to voicemail without ringing. Zoe set this up. Carlos said she has access to our email because she helps us with computer things. I didn't even know this filter existed. The three of us sat there processing that. Zoe had systematically cut off every possible avenue for me to reach anyone in her family. Carlos put his phone down. Chelsea came to us Tuesday night. She was upset, crying, saying she didn't know who to trust anymore. She showed us everything from that envelope, the bank statements, the custody agreement, the letters from her school counselor, all of it. "And the private letter you wrote to her," Chloe added, "the one about the bedtime stories and the soccer games, and the phone call she tried to make when she was 13. She read it out loud to us, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it." "That phone call," Carlos said, "I need you to explain how you knew about that." I told them about Derek's connection to Avery's family, about how the information had filtered through. It took 2 years for that story to reach me, but when it did, I saved it. I knew I'd need it someday. Chloe was crying now. "We missed 4 years of your relationship with our granddaughter because Zoe convinced us you'd abandoned her. 4 years of birthdays and holidays and school events where you should have been welcome in our home. Why would she do that?" I'd been thinking about this question for 4 years because she needed me to be the villain in her story. When she met Tucker, she wanted to be the brave single mother who'd overcome a deadbeat ex-husband. It was easier to erase me than to explain why the divorce happened. "Why did the divorce happen?" Carlos asked. "We only ever got Zoe's version. This was the moment I'd been preparing for, the last piece of information I'd been holding. The thing I found out 2 years ago that I'd saved for exactly this conversation." I pulled out my phone and opened a folder of screenshots, passed it to Carlos. "These are Instagram messages between Zoe and Tucker from 6 months before she filed for divorce. Before she even told me she wanted to end the marriage, they met at a networking event through Tucker's company, exchanged numbers, started talking. These messages show them planning to meet up, talking about how much they had in common, making excuses to see each other." Carlos scrolled through them. His face went hard. "She was cheating on you," Chloe said. "Emotionally at minimum," I said. "I can't prove it was physical, but read the messages. They're not platonic. And look at the dates. She filed for divorce in March. These messages start in October of the year before. By the time she told me she wanted out, she already had Tucker lined up. How did you get these? Carlos asked. Chelsea's Instagram account. I said 2 years ago, she posted a throwback photo of her mom and Tucker from before they got married. Tagged it with some caption about true love. The photo was a screenshot from an Instagram DM conversation. You could see part of the previous messages in the background if you zoomed in. I screenshotted it before Chelsea deleted it, enhanced the image, pieced together what I could. That's when I realized Zoe hadn't left me because I wasn't good enough. She'd left me because she'd already found someone she thought was better. Tucker, with his money and his connections and his old family name. And rather than admit she'd been planning her exit for months, she'd made me into the bad guy, the struggling husband who couldn't provide, who didn't pay attention, who didn't deserve his daughter. Chloe took the phone from Carlos and looked at the messages herself. She started crying harder. She told us you'd given up, Chloe said. She said you'd stopped trying to see Chelsea, stopped caring. She said the divorce was because you couldn't hold down a job and refused to grow up. We believed her because she's our daughter and we thought we knew her. Carlos stood up and walked to the window. He was angry. I could see it in the way he held himself. Tucker's parents need to see this. He said they're already questioning Zoe's character after what happened at the party. If they find out she pursued their son while still married, that she lied about the circumstances of her divorce, that she's been manipulating everyone around her for years. His marriage might not survive it, I finished. Carlos turned around and looked at me. Is that what you want? I want my daughter to know the truth, I said. I want everyone who believed Zoe's lies to see who she really is. And I want Tucker to understand what kind of person he married before he signs any more checks or makes any more legal threats on her behalf. Chloe wiped her eyes. We're having dinner with Tucker's parents this Sunday. They invited us to discuss the situation. They're concerned about Chelsea's well-being and about the stability of Zoe and Tucker's marriage. Carlos and I have been avoiding the conversation because we didn't know what to say. Now you know what to say, I told them. We sat there in silence for a minute. Then Chloe asked if I wanted to stay for dinner, but I declined. I'd said what I needed to say. What they did with the information was up to them. Friday morning, Tucker called me. His voice was different. Strained. We need to talk, he said. My parents want to meet with you. I asked. Saturday afternoon. The house. I'll text you the address. Will Zoe be there? I asked. No, Tucker said. My parents specifically said just you and me and them. Saturday afternoon. I drove out to Tucker's parents' house, which was exactly what you'd expect. Gated community, houses set back from the road, security guard who checked my ID before letting me through. The house itself was massive, 3 stories with columns and a circular driveway. Tucker met me at the door. He looked worse than he had in his office, tired, rumpled, like he hadn't slept. His parents were waiting in what they called the study. All dark wood and leather furniture and books that looked like they'd never been read. His father introduced himself as Richard, his mother as Patricia. They offered me whiskey, which I accepted because I figured I'd need it. Richard got straight to the point. We had dinner with Zoe's parents last night. They shared some concerning information about the circumstances of Zoe's first marriage and divorce. I waited. Patricia set down her glass. They showed us messages between Zoe and our son from before her divorce was filed. Messages that suggest a relationship was developing while she was still married to you. I confirmed that was accurate. Richard leaned back in his chair. Tucker has been defensive of Zoe throughout this situation. He insisted that you were a disgruntled ex-husband trying to cause problems, that Zoe had valid reasons for limiting your contact with Chelsea, that the story about your death was an unfortunate miscommunication that got out of hand. But the evidence suggests otherwise. Patricia said the child support records, the custody agreement, the messages. All of it paints a picture of systematic deception on Zoe's part. Tucker was sitting in the corner, not saying anything. He looked defeated. Richard continued, our family has certain standards. We're involved in charitable work. We hold positions on boards. We're active in our church. We cannot be associated with someone who has demonstrated a pattern of dishonesty and manipulation. So, what happens now? I asked. Patricia spoke. Tucker and Zoe need to separate, at least temporarily, while Tucker reassesses whether this marriage can continue. We've already spoken to our attorney about the implications for Tucker's finances and custody of Chelsea. Chelsea's not Tucker's daughter, I said. But he's been her stepfather for 4 years. Patricia said he has responsibilities, and more importantly, Chelsea needs stability while this situation resolves itself. Richard set down his glass. We'd like to propose a solution. Tucker will tell Zoe he needs space to think. She can stay in the house, but Tucker will move back here with us. During this separation, you will be allowed scheduled time with Chelsea, supervised by us if necessary. This gives Chelsea time to process everything and rebuild her relationship with you without Zoe's interference. And if Zoe objects, I asked. Tucker finally spoke. She won't have a choice. The house is in my name. The cars are in my name. Her credit cards are on my accounts. If she objects, I cut her off financially and she will have to move back in with her parents. That seems harsh, I said. Richard smiled, but it wasn't friendly. She lied her way into this family. She manipulated my son. She alienated a child from her father and felt no remorse about it. Harsh is exactly what she's earned, Patricia added. And you should know that we'll be suspending our financial support for the lifestyle Zoe has become accustomed to. No more shopping accounts, no more club memberships, no more personal trainer or weekly salon appointments. If this marriage is going to continue, Zoe needs to prove she can be honest and responsible. The meeting lasted another hour. They asked questions about my relationship with Chelsea, about my job and living situation, about my plans for rebuilding my relationship with my daughter. They were interviewing me, basically making sure I was stable enough to be in Chelsea's life. By the time I left, we had a schedule worked out. Starting the following week, I'd have dinner with Chelsea twice a week, supervised by Tucker's parents initially. After a month, if things were going well, we'd move to unsupervised visits. Eventually, we'd work toward the full custody arrangement. And I should have had all along. Tucker walked me to my car. He looked broken. I loved her, he said. I thought she was genuine. I thought her story about you was true. Did you ever ask my side? I asked. He shook his head. She was so convincing, so hurt, so brave. I wanted to be the man who saved her from her painful past. Instead, you were the man who helped her erase me, I said. Tucker didn't argue. He just stood there in his parents' driveway in his expensive clothes and his expensive watch and looked like everything he'd built his life on had turned to dust. Sunday afternoon, Zoe called me. She was screaming. What did you do? Tucker moved out. His parents are treating me like I'm some kind of criminal. They're cutting off my accounts. They want me to move out of the house. And Chelsea won't stop crying. I didn't do anything. I said calmly. I just told the truth. You destroyed my life. You tried to erase me from my daughter's life. I said you told people I was dead. You humiliated me in front of 200 guests as a joke. You thought there would be no consequences. You were wrong. Zoe was sobbing now. Tucker's talking about divorce. His family hates me. My parents are disappointed in me. Chelsea blames me for everything. And it's all because you couldn't just stay gone. I should have stayed erased so you could live your lie. I said, I'm going to fight this. Zoe said, I'm going to get a lawyer. I'm going to prove you manipulated everyone. I'm going to good luck with that. I said and hung up. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've had dinner with Chelsea 4 times. The first time was awkward. Both of us trying to figure out how to talk to each other after 4 years. But by the 4th dinner, we were talking about her classes, her friends, her plans for college. She asked about my job, my apartment, what I'd been doing all these years. She hasn't forgiven Zoe from what Tucker's parents tell me. Chelsea is barely speaking to her mother. Zoe is still living in the house, but Tucker filed for separation last week. His family made it clear that if he stays with Zoe, they're done supporting him financially and professionally. Tucker chose his family over his wife. Zoe moved back in with her parents 3 days ago. The house is being sold. Chelsea is staying with Tucker's parents until the custody situation gets formalized, which apparently means she gets to choose where she wants to live once she turns 18 in 2 years. In the meantime, I have official visitation twice a week, and we're working toward more. People ask me if I feel bad about destroying Zoe's marriage and her relationship with Tucker's family. The answer is no. She spent 4 years destroying my relationship with my daughter. She told everyone I was dead. She humiliated me for sport. She built her entire new life on the foundation of erasing me. So yeah, I wanted them to invite me to that party. I wanted them to feel smug and superior and confident they'd won. Because the thing about people who get away with everything for too long, they stop being careful. They push too far. And when they do, when they finally give you an opening, you make sure they regret it. That envelope I left at Chelsea's party was 4 years in the making. Every document I saved, every record I kept, every piece of evidence I collected was for that exact moment. I knew eventually Zoe would get cocky enough to do something I could use. The invitation was exactly what I'd been waiting for. Was it revenge? Absolutely. But it was also justice. And sometimes those two things are the same thing. Chelsea and I are going to see a movie this Wednesday. Just the two of us. No supervision. No awkward dinners with Tucker's parents watching every word. Just a father and daughter trying to rebuild what her mother tried to destroy. And Zoe, she's living in her childhood bedroom trying to figure out how to pay for a divorce lawyer on whatever job she can find. Tucker's family made it clear they're not funding her legal fees. Her parents are supporting her, but they're disappointed and angry. She played a game and lost everything. I drove 4 hours to a party I wasn't wanted at and left an envelope that ended a marriage and destroyed the life someone built on lies.